Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time to tee it up with Tom and John. They talk with the people driving Orange County and keeping our community on course. Let's kick it off. Let's tee it up with the man himself, the mayor of Costa Mesa, John Stevens.
Hey, thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. So it's, ladies and gentlemen, it's St. Patrick's Day. And not only is it St. Patrick's Day, but it's the first day of the Hogue Classic. So we have on the line Tom Johnson, my partner, who's a starter at the Hogue Classic. Tom, can we hear you? Tommy, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I absolutely can hear you.
How's it going out there?
Well, first of all, I expected a bigger introduction. That's why I was quiet for so long.
Well,
you talk about all my credentials and everything, about my golf game and all that. Hey, you know what? It is great to be out here. You know what? There's this new thing out today called sun.
yes, I know.
Right now, it's sunny out here. I'm sure the golfers are excited. There have been no fans allowed out here for the past 2 days during the Pro-Am.
Right.
So I think everybody's kind of excited about a little golf coming to town.
How's the course? What's the condition like?
The course looks so green and beautiful, as you might imagine, with all that rain. And, you know, I went to the breakfast the other day. Fred Couples spoke, and he talked about how his love for Newport Beach Country Club and how all the players talk about it being one of the best courses on tour for the champions, the PGA Tour champions. So I think they're very excited about being here. They got a lot of big names, Couples out here, Ernie Els, Vijay Singh, Davis Love III, Jim Furyk, David Duval. I mean, it's a really impressive list.
Wow, that's like the Mount Rushmore of senior golfing. Hey, so Tom, so you are the starter at the
Yes.
at the tournament. So tell the listeners what does that entail, and who have you sent out on the golf course today?
Well, I haven't sent anybody out because the first tee time is at 10:20.
Oh, yeah, so seniors have to sleep in a little bit.
Yeah, you know, I've already been to a breakfast in Newport Beach this morning, but so I'll be on the 10th tee today, and for half the field, I'll be announcing off the 10th hole, and I actually am one of the starters that gets up there and, you know, talks about the player. You know, everybody welcome. Let's welcome from Newport Beach, Freddie Couples, you know, and everybody, you know, claps and things like that. So I've been doing that for a number of years. It's a kick.
Yeah.
And you get to meet all these guys out here and be up close and personal. And, you know, I do talk to them. I mean, the biggest compliment I can give most of them is I said, do you guys know John Stevens? You swing an awful lot like him.
Oh God, I hope not. They'd never make the cut if they swang like me. Hey,
I'm talking about the amateurs the last couple of days.
One of these days I'd love to play in that tournament, but you have to have a pretty low handicap to play, don't you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I have played in it probably a dozen times. And it is a lot of fun, and there are actually big clients of some of the sponsors that come out here, and I've introduced them off the tee, and they haven't hit it 10 feet.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that'd be fun anyway. Hey, so are you wearing black in mourning of the University of Arizona tanking in the first round of the March Madness
did they play
tournament?
the first day?
Yeah, they did. They played the first day. They didn't make it to the second day.
That's the problem. No, yeah, I am. I was disgusted yesterday, and to make matters worse, then I had to watch UCLA last night just rock and roll and play the way basketball should be played.
Yeah, I have them going all the way. Senior leadership, strong coaching, great athletes. I have them playing Alabama in the final.
Okay.
All right, Tom.
I would like to see the Pac-12 go, but Johnny, I'm sorry I can't be in the studio with you, and I wish you were out here. It's just a glorious day out here.
That's okay. I'll carry your weight as always,
okay.
And have fun out there at the Hogue.
Okay.
All right.
You guys be well. Bye-bye.
Great. All right, thanks. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're happy to have Nate Robbins here. He's the neighborhood improvement manager, right? Neighborhood improvement manager, but we call him the homeless czar of Costa Mesa. And we're going to be talking today about the the homelessness solutions that we've put in place and that we're working on in Costa Mesa. I'm John Stevens. I'm the mayor of Costa Mesa, so I know a little bit about that. But I think you're going to be really impressed by who we have in charge of that effort. Nate Robbins is a great guy, and I'd like to thank my law firm, Stevens Friedland, for sponsoring this show. And we had a great event for March Madness. We talked a little bit about that with Tom yesterday. We had a lot of people over at the firm, and it went really well. And so on to St. Patrick's Day. So happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone, and it's great to have you here, Nate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Nate, let's just talk about you for a second and just kind of orient people to what you're all about. You grew up locally.
Yeah, I grew up in Anaheim, born and raised. Yeah, I love Orange County, man.
And then you were telling me you played high school football. Talk about that.
Yes, I played, I went to Loera High School in Anaheim and played football all 4 years. Actually never played any Pop Warner or anything leading up to that. Just played my freshman year and found that I was really good at it. And then upon graduating, got a full ride scholarship to go back to a little college back on the East Coast called College of the Holy Cross, not to be confused with the Holy Cross from the movie Rudy.
Right. That's right.
This is the Holy Cross in Worcester, or as the East Coasters call it, Worcester, Massachusetts. Yeah, and played 4 years there. Loved every second of it. Very blessed.
That's great. And then, and not surprisingly, you go back east, you experience the weather for 4 years, then you came back where it usually is warm, except for this winter.
Yeah, I ran back, and people ask, "Are you going to stay out here?" And I'd laugh, "No, absolutely not. 4 winters is quite enough." Again, growing up in Orange County, I just can't do it. But.
And then when you came back here, you started in law enforcement. Talk about that.
Yeah, I came back. Did a couple years in sales, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and then ended up getting let go from that. And I had a buddy that was a Garden Grove cop, and he said, well, come over and check it out. We only work 3 days a week, and the benefits are great, and it's a good job to have. So I applied and got hired by the city of Garden Grove, and ended up working over there for 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
But now you're in homeless solutions. So this is, I think, an important part of your background for the listeners to know about. Talk about your transition from the PD to homeless solutions. That's kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, so I won't go through the whole story, but I was on duty and I got a call, and I ended up fighting with the suspect and injured my back very severely. Ruptured 3 discs in my lower spine, had to have my spine a 3-level spinal fusion. Of course, I couldn't be a cop anymore at that point, and they gave me the option to either medically retire or be a civilian at the city of Garden Grove. I chose the latter and went to City Hall. And what I discovered was that was actually my passion. It's what, excuse me, God created me to be, was in charge of homelessness and assisting low-income people. It's in my heart mostly because I was a breath away from becoming homeless myself. When I got hurt, you go on, disability, but of course it's less than what you're used to making.
Sure.
And my wife and me at the time, we lost our house, we lost our cars, and we would have been homeless had it not been for family and friends to support us and give us a place to stay and pay for everything, literally for about 14 months. I didn't have a dollar to my name. And so as I look at the people that I help now, there's no difference between me and them. The
Right.
only difference is that I had a safety net.
Right.
I had family and friends to be there when I fell, and the people that I help now don't have that.
Right.
So
That's a great outlook, and it's so true that there are so many people, you see on the streets, you see that they're homeless, and there's such a stigma there. But it's, there but for the grace of God go I, because you could have an accident, a health emergency, some, a lot of people suffer from addiction. It could be coming out of an accident, get hooked on pain medications, and before you know it, you're right in that position. And but for the, like you say, the support system.
yeah, well, I mean, that's, not to get too far into it, but when a doctor prescribes pain meds, it feels okay. I'm not on the corner buying drugs, but you become addicted like that in an
Right.
instant. And so here I am 3 years later, still taking pain meds, just trying to manage my life, spiraling
Yes.
right, out of control. And again, friends and family were there to support me people that don't have that, that's what I do. I step in as that
Sure.
support system. Now, me and of course a team of people and even a city, we step in as that safety net and as that support system for people that just don't have it.
Sure. It's like a surrogate family almost.
Amen. Yeah.
Yeah. So then how'd you end up at the City of Costa Mesa?
So so 8 years as a cop, 6 years as at City Hall at Garden Grove. I didn't actually start in homelessness. That became a big thing around 2018 with the whole Judge Carter and, you know, mandating cities to do something about homelessness. I just had good foresight, and I was at City Hall in Garden Grove, and I saw what was coming.
Right.
And so I began to focus my attention on homelessness and helping those that are homeless. Just became kind of an expert in my own right. And then just recently, about a year ago, actually got promoted at the City of Costa Mesa to manage the whole response to homelessness.
Yes.
So
that's a good segue. So let's talk about. I want to tell people. I'll tell people a little bit about where we were. So when did you start at Costa Mesa? Was that in 2021 or
22. So it's
22?
It was 2/22/22.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So it was
Isn't
a
that
Tuesday also, which is pretty
unbelievable.
ironic, but yeah.
God, that's lucky. That must be some great numerology for you.
That's right. It is.
So anyhow, so the City of Costa Mesa, Nate mentioned Judge Carter. We got named in the lawsuit with the city of Anaheim and Orange and the county of Orange, and that was kind of the catalyst to us doing our homeless shelter. We had a long history of supporting the homeless through our network for homeless solutions, but we didn't have a shelter. And so we established our temporary shelter in April of 2019, and then our permanent shelter in March of 2021. And that's kind of the run up to you, and then you get hired, and so when you started at the city, that's what presented. We had our permanent shelter at that time, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the success that we've had since 2019 housing people. I think the last number that I heard was like 272 people that have been housed in that time, right?
Yeah, it's 275 now, which over the last 4 years, it's 68 people, give or take a few a year, which is an amazing average considering the red tape and bureaucracy that goes into housing people. There's just so much that someone has to go through to get to that final stage of receiving keys or signing a lease to an apartment.
That's true. And so I want everybody to have a really good sense of what we're doing, and trying to think of where to start to get into it. But we're what we call a low barrier housing first model. So tell the listeners about what that means and how that is contrasted with some of the other homelessness solution models.
Sure. Well, the term low barrier just means that so people that are homeless that want to get into the shelter, they don't have to do something first to gain access into the shelter. So low barrier in that if you are addicted to drugs or you're addicted to alcohol or you have mental health or anything else that would potentially cause or perpetuate your homelessness, you don't have to get clean or not drink, or you can come into the shelter as you are, and we accept everybody as they are. And then because shelter is more of a like when you have shelter, you're in a better place to be able to fix those things in your life that you need to become self-sustaining and successful. So shelter is the first thing that you need, not to get clean, not to, fix all these other things. You need shelter first as that foundation, and then all the other things you can begin to work on. So, so we take that mentality in what we do. And, I don't want to get too far off track, but we have a team of 8 outreach workers that go out into the city and meet people where they are, whether that's behind a business or in a dumpster enclosure. Unfortunately, this is where people are, and they meet them there as they are, and we love on people, but we hold them accountable too, right? You can't break the law, but we have everything that you need if you want it to change your situation.
And it's hard. You talk about the outreach, and it's hard to gain trust with people who are in a circumstance, living hard, camping on the streets, to get that level of trust to say, trust the government, come into our shelter. How do we address that? How do we overcome that trust issue?
We're all products of our past and in our environment. There was a study that was done among homeless people. I can't cite the source, but the hardest part about being homeless, you would think maybe lack of food or money, it's being ignored.
Right.
The people that they feel like they're invisible, like
Sure.
they're just not even human. And so our job is to really focus on a person's heart and who they
Yeah.
are as a person. And then in doing that, the work's going to get done. Look, we're in the business of changing lives, not checking boxes.
Sure.
So we go out and we look someone in the eye and we genuinely tell them that we care about you and we care about what you've been through and what you're going through, and we'll be here no matter what. You can, people curse us out and tell us to get away from them, and then we're there again the next day.
Right.
Because we love them as a person. They're not a number to us. It doesn't matter like that.
Persistence in this and so many other pursuits is so important. And yeah, you talk about the being ignored. I went to an event put on by the Illumination Foundation, and they said that the effect of loneliness on someone's physical health is equivalent to smoking.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
Right.
And and so it's just a cascading thing. You become homeless, then you're living on the street, your body aches, you're lonely, one thing leads to another, and it just kind of is a spiral. So really to take people from that position and try to lift them up is really a great calling.
It is, and I think it's even harder though because of the way that the government, from all levels, federal, county, state, city, has handled homelessness in the past was just to move people around,
Right.
arrest them, push them to the outskirts of the city. So it's not like this has been 20 years of trying to gain the trust of the people. This is a very recent thing where it's thankfully been discovered that if we focus on the heart of people, the work will come.
Yeah.
And so it's an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah, even in Costa Mesa, we've been talking about it recently about our thing like our bus benches. There were we have in the city of Costa Mesa as one of our principles or core values is compassion. But that wasn't always the case. And back in a several years ago, they thought the solution to homelessness was to make the bus benches really uncomfortable so that no one could sleep on them. And that would drive away the homeless, and they'd go sleep on the comfy benches in Huntington Beach.
Right.
That was the theory. Well, of course, that didn't work, and now we just have uncomfortable bus benches.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about you talk about low barrier, but then housing first. What happens when someone does accept the help and they come into the shelter? What's our path to get them into permanent housing?
So the term housing first is very similar to low barrier in that it's exactly what I said. It takes shelter, it takes that foundation of security to be able to even address these other issues in their lives. So whether it's getting into the shelter or then transitioning into permanent housing, that none of that requires, there's no prerequisites for that, right? As long as you can stay at the shelter and follow the rules, of course, and then you're working on a housing plan, which is just becoming document ready. A lot of people that are experiencing homelessness don't have a birth certificate, don't have a social security card. They don't have, the benefits that they're able to receive. They don't have any of that. So our job, whether it be out on the street via outreach or in the shelter via Mercy House, who manages our shelter, is to get people ready and prepared to be able to get into housing. Because as you know, you need credit, you need deposit, you need
Sure.
references, right,
Sure.
to sign a lease. And so that's our job. Just prepare people for that transition. And then once they're in there, the job isn't over. This is where we lean into our faith-based and nonprofit communities. The city can only go so far at the end of the day. We can provide the funds and we can provide the programs, but once someone moves into housing, the city doesn't have the capacity to then continue serving not only the people that are still on the street and in the shelter, but all those 275 people that are now housed over the past 4 years. So we lean on our nonprofits and our faith-based community to then almost adopt, if you will, this person, help them integrate back into society. We take these things for granted. Where's the local grocery store? Where's the post office? Where are the bus stops that can get me from A to B that I need to go?
Right.
A lot of these people are transplanted 15, 20 miles from where they grew up. Everything they know, it's brand new for them. So it's a lot harder than you would think to go from homelessness to housing. It sounds like a simple thing. It's not. There's so
Yeah.
much involved there.
So you mentioned Mercy House. So I want to talk a little bit about our shelter. So our shelter is over by the airport on Airway, and tell about how Mercy House is our operator, but how Mercy House and the city staff work together hand in hand in what we call our hybrid model.
Sure. So it's pretty rare, actually. Most cities that have shelters will potentially buy the building and, do all the tenant improvements and that, and then hire a service provider to come in and operate the shelter, which is fine. But and then usually the city will kind of be hands off and just give us your monthly accomplishment reports, and we'll pay your bills, and we're okay with that. Well, the City of Costa Mesa is much more involved. We actually have staff offices at the shelter. So my outreach supervisor is also kind of a pseudo shelter supervisor as well. He's there 5 days a week, sometimes 6, even 7 days a week. John Began, give him a quick shout out, one of the biggest hearts of any people I've ever
Great
met
guy.
in my entire life, right?
Yeah.
He'll give you the shirt off his back, and that's not just a cliche. He will. And so he's there every day, loving on the people, and influencing the way that Mercy House operates the shelter. Not to be micromanagey, or not that we don't trust them. It's just, it's our city,
Sure.
and we want to do things the way that we want to do things. And so, Mercy House almost requires that influence so that they know what we expect. And what we find is that we are much more successful in accomplishing the city's goals, along with Mercy House as a partner, because we're there.
And I can tell you too, I mean, that model that you're talking about is very deliberate and intentional, and was there from the very beginning of us talking about opening a shelter.
Right.
When in 2018, when we really got going on looking at shelter options, there were 5 members of the city council. I was one of them. And one of the things that we focused on more than anything else is having our own control over what happens there. Right. And so, for example, we didn't take a lot of money from the county because we didn't want anybody else telling us how to run the shelter.
Right.
And so that kind of came from the city council. We had a staff in place. We retained that staff, and it's, however many years later, 5 years later, it seems to be working really well.
It is. It's, in my opinion, it's the only way to do it. I mean, I'm not disparaging any other city that does it a different way, but really, when you look at it, it's the only way to do it. If you truly want to accomplish the goals of the city, you need to be there.
Yeah. Let's talk about a couple of other things, because let's talk about food. What happens for food at the shelter, and also how do we integrate volunteers, how people can help? Sure.
So we're actually one of the only shelters in the entire county that has a full service commercial kitchen. It costs us $1 million for the kitchen. And, a lot of cities would say that that's a waste of money, and maybe in the food delivery model, it might be, but we actually awarded a contract to a nonprofit called Bracken's Kitchen. They're known around the country. Bill Bracken, an amazing man, 5-star chef, and he trains all his guys and gals to be the same way, excellence in the kitchen. And so we awarded them a contract. They cook 3 meals a day, 365 days a year for our shelter guests. And these are very, very high quality meals.
Yeah.
I even say sometimes that the guests of our shelter eat better than I do.
Yes.
They're having, these beautiful chicken dinners and steaks and all this other stuff. So it's, but it's much more than just checking a box at our shelter. It's rebuilding people from the inside out, letting them know that they do matter, giving them a sense of dignity and honor and pride in who they are.
Right.
And just really respecting people for who they are.
So I want to cover a couple more things, because our time is going away, but we have a project called the Project Home Key where we're converting the Motel 6 into 88 units of permanent supportive housing. So that, I think, just started construction very recently, even this week. So talk about what that project is and what it isn't, because there's a lot of misinformation surrounding that project.
Sure. So the Home Key program, just really quickly, is a state program that allows for the acquisition of hotels and motels so that they can be converted to permanent housing. The City of Costa Mesa, in partnership with the County of Orange, was awarded roughly $10.5 million from the state via the Home Key program to acquire the 88-unit Motel 6 off of Newport Boulevard. And with those funds, and of course there's other funds, the city put in $5.85 million. The county put in just about $5.5 million plus some VASH vouchers, which are veteran vouchers, to be able to convert that motel property, which a lot of times, motels specifically are underutilized. They do an okay job of providing some commercial hospitality, but at the end of the day, this isn't all motels, but they're not necessarily contributing to the community itself, right? So in converting that property to permanent housing, we're redeveloping, again, an underutilized property to be able to provide housing for people that need it most, those experiencing homelessness. The Motel 6 is going to do 30 units of veteran housing, 10 units for individuals, and then 47 units for Costa Mesa seniors that only make 50% of the area median income, which for one person is like $45,000 a year.
Right.
You can't live off of that.
So you mentioned that the city put in money that we should give a plug to the federal government, because that was actually federal funds that had been provided, our home funds and our ARPA funds, and we were able to allocate them to this project. So it's really a great partnership between, and Mercy House is going to operate that facility too, correct?
They are, and I think the beauty of the model itself, just really quick, is that it's permanent supportive housing. So it's not just warehousing homeless people, or formerly homeless people at that point, but there's actually service offices on site. So Mercy House will have an office as the overall lead service provider. The VA will have an office on site. County Mental Health will have an office on site. So again, it's the provision of services right there where people live. It just results in much more successful outcomes.
So we've talked a lot about what we're doing in Costa Mesa, the homeless solutions and the permanent supportive housing project. But I'd like to just kind of give you an opportunity to talk about your dreams. Like you're talking to the mayor now, right? So it's budget season, but let's say money was no object. What would you like to see us do in the city of Costa Mesa going forward to improve the homeless services that we're providing and lift more people up off the streets?
Sure. Well, I appreciate that opportunity. I think the biggest gap in our model right now is behavioral health, which, for those of you who don't know, it's the mixture of mental health and substance use disorders. There's a huge issue right now with fentanyl and mental health. And so the city of Costa Mesa, if I had all the money and all the building space, I would bring those services directly to the city. Expanding the shelter to be kind of a one-stop shop, if you will, having all of those services in one place. Now, the shelter guests mostly are on Medi-Cal. They get assigned a Medi-Cal doctor all over Orange County. They're driving in and out of the shelter 10, 15 miles sometime to see their doctor. They have a different dentist, a different mental health physician. If we could bring all that into the shelter space, and so that people wouldn't have to go anywhere, it was just right there,
right,
would be a dream come true. It's, in my opinion, it's the way that it should be done, but because of money and building space, it's difficult.
Yeah. Well, look, we can always move toward it. We've made a lot of progress. You look at the progress we've made since 2018. When we first met, I was the chairman of the homelessness task force for ACCOC, and we would put on these events, and we had like Marshall Moncrief, who's now running Be Well OC, and all kinds of people that would come and talk with us. And when you think of the progress that we've made because of people like you, Susan Price, just so many people, Larry Haynes at Mercy House, that are committed to this issue. We've made tremendous progress in the last 5 years, and we can hope that continues exponentially over the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I think it will, as long as cities give people like me an opportunity to come in and dream big. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. So we're not a status quo city. We don't continue to do things just because that's the way we've always done them. We think outside the box. We have people's hearts at the forefront of our minds, and whatever we can do to elevate the system to provide the highest level of care, on a daily basis is what our goal is.
Right. Well, that's great. So, hey, Nate, thanks for coming in on your day off. Thank you very much. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thanks for all of the information, and most important, thank you for what you do on a daily basis, really ministering to the people who need it the most, literally saving lives. And I'm so proud to have you in that position in the city of Costa Mesa as the mayor and on behalf of the city council. I'm deeply grateful. Thank you very much for the work that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All right. And this is another episode of Tee It Up with Tom and John. Thank you very much, Paul. You were very uncharacteristically quiet today.
I just was taking it in. This was one of the best discussions. No kidding. I've heard about homelessness. I mean, real facts on the ground, what it's like and what you're doing. I appreciate this conversation.
Yeah, we're really proud of the work we're doing, and we're lucky to have Nate.
Well, we're lucky to have you guys here as we tee it up each and every week here, every other week here on OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.